Thank you, Count Corla, and I'm very pleased to be here to discuss the report in the Joint Committee on key issues affecting the traveller community, and welcome Eileen Flynn, Senator Eileen Flynn, to the House, and we look forward to seeing you here more often, I hope. And I'd like to also just take a moment to acknowledge Ronnie Fay, as others have, co-director of Pavey Point, who recently passed away and on this day last month, and so many gathered to say goodbye to her. Ronnie was a tireless advocate for the traveller community, and knowing her and engaging with her since I became Fine Gael spokesperson for equality was a privilege. It was a privilege to work with her and to have the benefit and education from her and the depth of her knowledge and to learn from her. And I'm sorry that she isn't here today to see this very, very important report being discussed in the Chamber, because the traveller community has been all too isolated and neglected a part of our community in our society, often purposely, honestly, pushed and bullied into the sidelines in ways that cannot be tolerated. The traveller community has faced discrimination, racism and an inequality of opportunity that I and so many others have just taken for granted entirely. And the figures in this important report speak for themselves, and others have quoted them, but allow me to do so also. Much shorter life expectancies, 11% of traveller deaths attributed to suicide, very, very important and serious concerns with health services, bullying in education settings, and I think if I could just, that is one of the things I find most difficult, and would demand yet again that the Department of Education come forward with a really seriously integrated national traveller education strategy that seeks to address so many of those things, but I'll come back to that. Cuts to traveller specific supports in education, difficulties obtaining ongoing employment outside the community and traveller specific organisations, overcrowded and substandard accommodation as referenced in the report, with 1 in 3 traveller households living in accommodation with no sewerage facilities and a further 1 in 5 with no piped water source. They're very stark figures. A basic need of water is for everyone, not just for 1 in 5 traveller households. And we've spoken a lot about ensuring that our elected representatives are just that, representative of the people across our diverse shared communities in Ireland. But we're simply not delivering for all of the diverse communities in Ireland, and we haven't done. And I hope that this report and the rest and the work that is ongoing in government, but particularly that this report might give impetus and momentum to that work, can help to change to deliver that. There have been some positive change in the 2 months leading up to Christmas. We heard from Minister Peter Burke, who confirmed there was a requirement for the full spend by local authorities of over 21 million for traveller accommodation in 2021. Obviously that budget has increased in 2022, but also the requirement by local authorities that that money is spent and penalties for failing to do so. It has been a particularly poor end-of-year report for local authorities year after year, where there has been that underspend, and as other deputies have said, that money going back to central allocation. But I'd like to briefly mention Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council, who have worked hard to buck that trend of underspend. That's fine to note it, but it needs to be persistent and it needs to be the basic standard and by no means the exception. And again, a few days before this report was published, Minister Simon Harris announced ring-fenced funding to support travellers in Roma community in higher education, a 50% on last year's funding, now totalling €450,000. But again, I need to go back to the Department of Education and the need for the National Traveller Education Strategy in full. It's something that has been in development for many, many years. It's something I know Pavey Point it's at the top of their list in terms of priorities. We've seen reports from children of the traveller community in schools and how difficult it has been, bullying, isolation. We know that there are teachers and principals who go out of their way to make children feel included, to make sure that they have the services and supports that they need, to try to identify and stop and just have a zero tolerance approach to racism and racist language in schools. But it's not universal, and it's not the universal experience of children of the traveller community in schools in our country, and so it's simply not good enough. So there has been positive movement, but we need to do more, as I've said. It's not just about funding and supports, it's about the way we do things. It's about educating in schools, it's about educating people more broadly about racism and acknowledging that, yes, unfortunately, it still very much exists in modern Ireland. It's about a level of understanding and respect that we have been lacking in. A level of understanding and respect to live side by side and in an integrated way with consideration and respect for every person and their community and their identity and the rich traditions that come from the different communities and how they can only contribute to each other and add to the vibrant culture that is Ireland. To finish, I want to particularly acknowledge again Senator Eileen Flynn and to thank her for the particular work that she has put into the special committee and the report. I think I walked back into Leinster House after a lunch today and met your partner and daughter on the way in. Of course, she's too young to understand understand the impact of the work that you're doing and what that means, and the legacy that you're creating with this work, and the legacy that of you being here, and the importance of that, the representative function that provides, not just to traveller women, but to the traveller community more broadly, and to women more broadly, and what it says about genuine inclusivity and respect for each other. And I'm so delighted to see you, as part of this House today. I didn't know that was going to happen, and I think it's so important, and that your daughter will see that in time as well. So I really just want to thank you for the work that you've done on this, and hope that it gives impetus to the government to deliver in the way that's needed.